Violence Prevention Month. So I'm wearing a purple ribbon to promote awareness of the connection between the treatment of addictions and ending family violence. I wish to begin by acknowledging this is the homeland of the many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people whose ancestors have walked this land since time immemorial. And I'm grateful to work, live, learn on the traditional territory of Treaty 8. My name is Corey Lynn Northey. On my mother's side, I am French, Métis, and First Nations. I'm both Sioux and a descendant of Michelle First Nation, Mohawk, and of the Bear Clan. I work for Alberta Health Services, Addiction and Mental Health. Wendy and I are members of the Grand Prairie Aboriginal Circle of Services, also known as JAPACOS. And we want to acknowledge the financial sponsorship by Shell Canada for their support of our storytelling series. Wendy will introduce yourself now.
All right, my name is Wendy Goulet. I am with Aboriginal Services in Community Social Services. I provide admin support for the Northwest Aboriginal Interagency Committees, which is High Prairie, Grand Prairie, Peace River, and High Level. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight and thank Corey Lynn for her awesome introduction, and thank you, Laurent, for agreeing to do this with us.
Truly, we are honored to have Laurent Isadore, knowledge keeper and Escapios from Drip Pile First Nation and business owner of Kiwitin Spirit, an artist, truly, and I'm grateful he accepted tobacco and the gifts we offered on behalf of our community members. I see some people are still arriving, so I want to remind you, please mute yourselves while Laurent is speaking. Near the end of the session, we will invite you to ask questions and make comments by raising your hand electronically using the reactions buttons. It's a button at the menu on the bottom of your screen usually. I will call out your first name when it's your time to speak, and we can also read out your question if you choose instead to write it in the chat bar. Please keep the questions and comments related to the topic and the teachings shared. I noticed, Wendy, you put in the chat, very important thing. Want to talk about that?
Oh, sorry, did you say, do I want to talk about it? If you want to put in the chat where you're from and what traditional territory you're on, that'd be really awesome. Thank you.
Okay, I see we have 14 participants here. We had about 16 registered, so there might be a few latecomers. I'm going to admit another one right now. Laurent, I'd like to turn it over to you now, if you're ready to begin.
Anse, into teamtik. My name is Laurent Isadore, and I come from the Driftpile Cree Nation in northern Alberta. And I just wanted to first off start by saying that it's an honor to be able to share a little bit about myself, with the hopes that I can inspire, or with the hopes that I can share some knowledge and some teachings that were passed to me, cultural teachings. I wanted to first off, I wanted to start off by opening up with a song. I'm a traditional singer, and I wanted to open up with a song just to help give thanks to our ancestors for being with us and for guiding us through everything that we're going through in our lives. There's a lot of things going on in the world, and a lot of us are going through it in different ways, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically. So I wanted to start things off with a song, giving thanks song. So I want for all of you, if possible, just to clear your mind, relax yourself, clear your mind, and just open yourself up to the thought and the idea that through everything that happened generationally and historically to our people, we're still here. We're still here. We're still able to share the knowledge given with the everything that's happening with the residential schools and the 60s scoop and everything that our people have went through throughout history. We're still here. 90% of the indigenous population was wiped out, and we represent that 10%. So we have a lot to give thanks for, because our creator and our ancestors allowed for us to be here, made it so that we're still here, so that we're able to pass on the knowledge. So I want to sing a giving thanks song, and I want you to just close your eyes and open yourself up. Hey, I was asked by Corey to I was approached with protocol to share some of my life experiences and a little bit of my life story, and I find that it's an honor to be asked to speak, because the things that I'm going to talk about, they speak about intergenerational trauma. They speak about a lot of things that we faced as Indigenous people, systemic racism, and things that hinder us as Indigenous people. And I wanted to first of all explain that the things that I choose to share with you, I don't choose to share out of ego to talk about myself. I choose to share these things as an opportunity for you to find a common interest in what I'm speaking about, because a lot of us face a lot of the same issues, and a lot of us have loved ones and family members that are going through a lot of different things. So I was born in Slave Lake, Alberta, and I lived for the first part of my life. I lived in Driftpile in my reserve here, and I remember as a young child. I remember as a young child, I was we had a lot in our lives. Like we had a lot of things in terms of a nice house and vehicles, and my mom and dad, they both worked, and we had that. Um, but one thing that really stuck out about our childhood, about my childhood, was that my brothers and sisters and I, was that my dad, for the first part of my life, he had a problem with his anger and temper, and we suffered a little bit through that, and we went through quite a bit in terms of being abused as children, and we would be physically, and mentally and emotionally abused, and I just wanted to kind of give you an understanding of my life in terms of where I started and where I'm at now. So in the beginning, we like my parents, they were sober. My late mother, she never touched a drop of alcohol or did drugs or anything like that. And my dad, later on in his life, he quit drinking, and he sobered up. So for me growing up, we had an all right childhood, but there was still things that I found later on in life that really affected me as a human being. And one of the things that kind of stuck out was my mom. She was always a keeper of children. She would always take in my aunties and my uncles' children, and they would come and stay with us. And that's often how it is with a lot of indigenous families. We take in our sisters and brothers' children, and what resulted out of that was I had an older cousin um, who sexually abused me, and at the time I didn't really understand what that was. I didn't really understand what was happening, but I know for myself, I know that it felt wrong inside. I wasn't too sure what was happening, but I know I felt wrong. So I never said anything about it for years and years. I never said anything about what happened. And what what ended up happening was my mother, she she left my dad and took us kids, and we were staying at first in a women's shelter in Edmonton, and we moved around a little bit, and that was kind of my childhood. From that point, I was moving around quite a bit from town to town, city to city, and then when I was 13 years old, uh, my mom, she told me, she said, we're gonna be moving to Edmonton. I want to give you guys a better education. I want to give you guys an opportunity to have a better education. There's not a good education here. So we ended up moving to Edmonton, and for me it was quite a bit of a culture shock, because like with my mom, we were really into culture, um, for growing up, and we would go to ceremonies and everything. And when moved to the city, it was a huge culture shock for me, We weren't able to get a place right in the city, so we were staying with family in just outside of the city. And the first thing I remember is seeing where my bedroom was, and I was with one of my older cousins sharing a room. And one of the first things that my older cousin said to me, he says, it's not like the country, it's not like the res. He said, this, in the city, you got to get down with one of the gangs if you're going to survive. That's what he told me. He said, you got to get down with one of the gangs if you're going to survive. He said, because, if you're caught on your own, you're as good as dead. So that kind of, it kind of like shocked me a little bit. And I wasn't really prepared for any of this kind of shock, culture shock, this kind of change of atmosphere or whatever. So we ended up getting a place in Edmonton, and I started school, junior high school. And within, I think, the first 3 weeks to a month of living in Edmonton and going to school, within the first 3 weeks or the first month, I was already jumped into a gang. I was initiated into a gang. And I remember walking around with this group of people. We were walking around, and the leader was he was flashing this big wad of cash, and he had money in his hand. And when we were walking around, and we would go to a park, and we were sipping alcohol there. And I and I remember looking at him, and everybody was like, they were looking up to him, and he was telling people what to do. And and he has putting his arm around me, and he was really taking me under his wing, is what I thought was happening. And then he told me, he said, he said, if you're ready for this, he said, we can do this right now. He said, we can jump you in, you can get down with us. And then he told me, he said, this, you get down with us. He said, you have a brotherhood, you have a brother, you got a group, it's a family. He said, we take care of ourselves, we take care of our own, we take care of us. And he spoke a lot about about a brotherhood, and he spoke a lot about how we take care of each other. And some of the things he was talking about, it made a lot of sense, because he was saying, like, you're never going to be treated as an equal, no matter what you do. You're never going to be treated, like one of them. And he was talking about, society, and he was talking about non-Indigenous people. And he was saying, you're not going to be treated like them, no matter how hard you try. He said, and even if you do, you try, you're going to be an apple. That was the term he used, which was basically that you look native on the outside, but you're white on the inside, is basically what he was talking about. He was talking about, in a way, he was trying to say that, like, the more that you try to fit into society the way it is, the more of a sellout you're going to be to your people. And there was a lot of that manipulation and mind control, I guess. So I hung out with these guys for a bit, and then I finally decided, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get down. And so I went through an initiation, and I got jumped into the gang. And then what I was told was, I was told, okay, you go to school and start recruiting, start getting some members, and I was given some money, and I was given some drugs, and it was the first thing that happened. I was already sent to work, I guess. And I went back to school that following week, and I remember I got into a fight with one of the kids, and the thing is like we were both indigenous, and got into a fight, and I beat him up pretty bad, and I ran out of school. And the cops ended up coming to my house, and I ended up getting charged and with assault, and I went through this whole process of kind of in the court system and the jail system and everything, and then from that time to about maybe three years, throughout that period, it was just kind of a self-destructive lifestyle. There was a lot of a lot of drinking, a lot of drugs. There was a lot of violence, there was a lot of things that today sometimes I look back and I think to myself, I shouldn't have did that, but I have to live with that. And a lot of the things that I've done and a lot of the things that I've witnessed throughout that time of me being, in this self-destructive lifestyle, a lot of it, a lot of it, it's hard to live with. It's hard to sit with, some of the things I've seen and some of the things that I've done. And, and I just, sometimes I think back and, I'm kind of, I'm grateful that I'm still here. I'm grateful that I'm still alive, because there was sometimes that, I ended up in the hospital for different reasons, and I could, it's so possible that I could not be here today. And then I was in grade 12. I was just starting grade 12, and I was dating this girl, and then I was told by this girl that I was going to be a father, and that really it really hit me hard, because I never even thought about it up till then, the thought of being a father and whatnot. So I thought to myself, okay, well, I got to make some changes in my life. I can't be running the streets, and I can't be, doing this kind of stuff. I want to be around for my kid. So I made the choice to step away from that lifestyle, and it wasn't easy. I was excommunicated from the gang, and I was told that I wouldn't be allowed to wear certain colors. I wouldn't be allowed to talk with certain people, and if anything like that happened, then there'd be repercussions for it. But I was happy, and I was happy that I was out of that. And I was still drinking. I was still doing drugs, but I was wanting to change my life, because I had a kid coming into this world. I had a child that I needed to think about. So I turned to the only place that I knew that could really help me, and that was the culture, ceremonies, and the elders. I turned to the elders, and I asked for help. I asked for the guidance, and I asked for, you know the ability to step away from that life and make a change for myself and make a change for my kid. And I remember I remember um, I was wanting I was talking with this one elder, and this elder asked me, you know, when you see yourself, you know, in 5 years' time, where do you see yourself? Where do you picture yourself, you know, with the life where you're going right now, the way that you're going right now, if you don't make a change, where do you see yourself? And I looked him in the eye and I told him, I said, you know, I said, I'll either be dead or in jail if I keep going the way that I'm going. I don't really see a future for myself. And then he said, okay, he said, now think about yourself 5 years from now, you know, when you do make this change, where do you see yourself? And then I told him, I said, the one thing that I want and the one thing that I picture right now, when I look at myself 5 years from now making these changes, the one thing that I picture is I want to be able to, you know, walk down the street. You know, I want to be able to walk down the street. I want to be able to, you know, look at an elder in the eyes and have them, you know, not look at me, you know, and look down, you know, or not be afraid of me, or to be able to look at me, you know, and not be ashamed of me, you know, not be ashamed to see me the way that I am. You know, I said, because that happens to me now, you know, when I'm walking and I see an elder, you know, and I put my head down, you know, because I feel the shame and I don't feel like I'm good enough. I don't feel like I'm good enough to you know, to look at them, look at an elder, you know, look at somebody, you know, who I hold high regard to. And I said, that's what I want. That's where I see myself. So that elder said, you know, it might not happen right away, might take some time, you know, but hold on to that vision, hold on to that thought, hold on to that image of being able, you know, to walk by an elder or walk by somebody of significance and them smiling at you, you know. And that really stuck with me, you know, for a long time. That really stuck with me. And I said, you know, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And it didn't happen right away. You know, it took time. It wasn't like, you know, I just, that day I said, that's it, I'm done. And then I quit everything, you know. It didn't happen that way. You know, I had relapses and, you know, I fell. But the one thing that really stuck with me and really helped me pull myself up was the thought that, you know, I'm responsible for somebody. I'm responsible for my child, you know. I'm responsible for myself as well. I need to be a role model. You know, I don't want to be just another statistic. And that's what I thought about for a long time. I don't want to just be another statistic. I don't want to end up in jail. I don't want to end up dead, you know. And I held on to that. And then I held on to the idea and the thought and the vision that I had of people looking at me and not being afraid of me or not being ashamed, you know, when they see me. And so I, you know, I fought. I dug down deep and I fought, and it wasn't easy. You know, it wasn't easy to get there. You know, like I had to cut a lot of people out of my life. You know, a lot of people that were hindering me. They were bringing me down. I had to cut out, you know, even family. I had to say no. You know, I can't hang out with you anymore. You know, I got to focus on myself. I got to focus on, you know, on my kid. I got a kid. I got to focus on that. So that's that was my turning point when I decided. But it's important to note and to understand that because that was my turning point doesn't mean that's the moment that I quit, or that's the moment that I I stopped using drugs or stopped drinking. You know, that was my turning point when I said I'm going to choose my life over these addictions, over this self-destructive lifestyle. That's when I made that choice. It didn't happen right away. It took a little while after, you know, but I stuck to it and I stuck to it. And, you know, it started out, okay, well, I'm going to go 2 weeks without drinking or drugs or anything, you know, and then I made it those first 2 weeks, and then I ended up falling off, and, you know, and then it went longer and longer. And then I remember one time, I was coming, no, I was at home and I was passed out, and I remember hearing some yelling and whatnot. And then, my late mom was waking me up, and I was a single father at the time. And my late mom was waking me up, and she was telling me, she said, you know, pack your daughter's stuff, pack her stuff. She said, and pack your stuff. And then I said, why? What's going on? What's happening? And then she said, I'm taking your daughter. She's gonna stay with me. She can't keep living like this. And then she said, and you know, you gotta go to treatment. You gotta get help. She said, you can't keep going like this. She said, I don't want my granddaughter, you know, being raised this way. And then I was like, you know, that really hit me. And then I said to her, I was like, well, no, like I'm working on it. I'm working on it. And then she told me, she said, I want you to go into the bathroom. She said, look yourself in the mirror. She said, and she said, I want you to look at yourself, and I want you to tell yourself what it is you're going to do to make sure that, you know, your daughter's going to be raised up the way she needs to be. Not what you want, but what the way she needs to be raised up. You need to look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself what you're going to do to make sure that she has the upbringing she needs. So I did. I went in the mirror. I went into the bathroom and I looked in the mirror, and I was looking at myself. And I remember looking at myself, and I mean, I was hungover, you know, and I was feeling sick and whatever. And, you know, I looked like, I don't know, I was just really in a rough place. You know, I had bags under my eyes and everything else, and I just looked really rough. And I remember looking at myself, and I didn't even recognize who I was, you know. And it's kind of cliche, I guess, to say that, but I didn't recognize who I was. And I was looking at myself, and I just started crying. I just started crying, looking at myself, and I just told myself, I said, that's it. You know, that's it. You're done. Can't do this anymore. You know, you can't. You know, it's not about you. It's not about you. You know, it's about her. It's about, you know, I was looking at myself, and I said, it's about your daughter. It's not about you anymore. So that was the point. That was the moment when I said, okay, that was the moment. That was the day that I quit. I quit everything, you know, the drugs, the alcohol, and all of that, all the vices that I felt I needed, you know, because of the things that I went through growing up, you know, with the abuse and with the, um, you know, with the racism, you know, with the prejudice and everything that I faced living in the city, you know, even in towns, or even, you know, on the reservation, everything that I went through and everything that I faced, you know, all of it, you know, it really made it difficult for me, you know, to get to where I am. But I remember sitting with an elder not long after that moment. I remember sitting with an elder, and I remember this elder, you know, he told me, he said, um, I want you to tell me, you know, tell me who you are, first of all. who are you? And then I told him my name. I told him, where I was from, and I told him my family, and I told him all these things. And he said, okay, well, now I want to know who you are. I said, okay, well, I said I'm a recovering alcoholic, a recovering addict, and I'm wanting to get back into the culture, and I'm wanting to, start dancing pow again. I want to start singing pow, singing round dance again. I want to start going to ceremonies more, and and I was going on and saying all these things I want and everything. And then he said, are you sure about that? And then I said, what? I was like, yeah, I'm sure. This is what I want. Yeah. And then he said, well, you don't sound sure to me. And then he said, then I said, okay, well, I am going to do this. I am going to be sober, from now on. And I am going to get back into my culture, and I am going to, and I just kept going on. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. And I was saying it with certainty and everything like that. And then he looked at me and he said, okay, he said, I don't mean any disrespect. He said, but show me, don't tell me. That's what he said to me. And then I was like kind of taken back by it, and I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, okay, I will, I'll show you, and then that kind of helped me. That helped me to kind of take ownership for everything, to take ownership for everything and take it into my hands, and not just talk about it, not just say I'm going to do this or say I want to do this. It was like, no, like I'm in the driver's seat. I'm the one that's in control of my life. I make the choices that affect my life, right? So understanding that, I was able to peel back a lot of layers in my trauma that I talked about, and I was able to say, okay, well, yeah, this happened to me. I was a child. This happened to me, but I'm not a victim of that anymore. I don't need to hold myself there anymore. I'm not that little kid anymore. I'm a grown man, and I make my own choices now. What do I want to do in my life? Do I want to be held there like a victim? Do I want to be held back in that trauma and keep going, and in a way feeling sorry for myself, or looking for, looking for help elsewhere? Or, do I take it into my own hands and say, I'm in control of my own happiness, and then I started to look at my whole life up to that point, and looking at it and saying, what's everything that happened, all of the trauma and everything that happened in my life, good or bad, led me to where I am now, and as hard as it is, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the lessons that I've learned, because there was times when I wasn't sure if I was gonna wake up the next day. There was times when I wasn't sure what my, what I was gonna eat. There's times when I struggled a lot, but looking back at it, I'm able to say that I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that struggle. I'm grateful for all of those things that I went through, because I understand life differently. I understand what it's like to live in poverty. I understand what it's like to go through those abuses and those traumas. I understand the importance, of being grateful for what you have, because, I didn't have much, or whatever the case was, and a lot of those lessons that I learned in life, a lot of those made me the man I am today. You know, like for instance, now that I'm sober, I'm over 15 years sober. Now that I'm sober, you know, I don't look at people differently. Whether or not a person drinks or does drugs or whatever, it doesn't mean that you're less than. It doesn't mean that you're not deserving, you know. And if I hadn't went through that life that I went through, you know, maybe I wouldn't see it that way. So it's important. It's important for us, no matter where we're at in terms of our own personal growth. It's important for us to look back and not only just take the good, but take the bad, or take the negative, take the trauma. And it's important for us to say, I appreciate that. I'm grateful for that. It was hard. Yes, it was hard to go through, and it hurt a lot. Whatever it was that we went through, it was hard and it hurt a lot to go through it. But, you know, we made it through, and we are where we are now. And we don't have to live there anymore. We don't have to, we can close that door. We can look back on it and say, I can use this as a way to help others now. And that's kind of what drew me to do what I do today, to share my story or to share ancestral knowledge and teachings, because those stories that I have, and, the life that I lived, you know, it's sad, but it's not uncommon to a lot of stories out there, you know, and if I'm able to help somebody who might have a similar story and wants to get out of that life, you know, then that's what I'm here for. You know, I found my purpose, and my purpose is to help our people, because if you look at the way things are going right now, you know, with our country and whatnot, from the time of, you know, contact to where we are now, you know, we've always had the ability to be resilient. We've always had the ability to take care of ourselves and make sure that our stories are able to carry on, make sure that our teachings and our lessons are able to carry on, and that's one of the most important things is for us to make sure that we still hold on to our true values as Indigenous people, and hold on to our stories, because our stories are the way that we map our history, to say we were here, to say we did this, we went through this. When we talk about the old stories, and we talk about a lot of things that happened, from the time of, residential school and 60 scoop and all of these things that happened, how we learned about those was from the stories. All of our elders, the survivors, shared their stories. And that's how we were able to keep that important part of history alive, because it's important for us to make sure that that doesn't get pushed away, or that doesn't get buried. It's important for us to keep those, because it makes us who we are. We survived that. Not only survived that, but look at where we are today in today's society. We have Indigenous people that are, members of parliament. We have Indigenous people that are politicians. We have Indigenous lawyers. We have Indigenous teachers. We have a lot in terms of, where we started and where we are now. And that's so important to note, because there's a lot of negative stuff out there, but it's important, very important for us to acknowledge the trauma, but not allow it to dictate our lives or to control our lives. To acknowledge the trauma and to take what we can from there and say, I'm a better person because of this. You know, my dad is a residential school survivor. And I have to note and I have to say that, he's made a tremendous journey in terms of his own health and well-being. You know, my father and I, we have an amazing relationship now, and it didn't start that way. There was a lot of healing that needed to happen, but we got to that point, and now we have a really amazing relationship. And he's one of the closest people in my life, right? And that was through his own journey, his own resilience. He was able to do that, you know and a lot of the people that hurt us in our lives, a lot of them do the things that they do because of the hurt that was done to them. And that's important for us to know. The people that hurt me in my past, I'm not angry with them. I don't hold or harbor any negative feelings towards them. And the main reason why it's not to have forgiveness for them, just for them, but it's for myself. Because why do I need to hold on to those negativities of my past if I want to live a positive life? I want to have a positive future. Then why would I be looking in the past in a negative way? We take what we can, the teachings that we can from our lives, and we use those today as tools to make for a brighter future, a better future. And through my life, I was able to do this. And and I have to share that about it was probably about 5 years after talking with that elder. It was probably about 5 years afterwards, and I was I was walking in Edmonton, and I was by the CI, the CI hotel, and I saw this elder standing outside the CI, and she was trying to light a cigarette, and it was kind of windy out. So I went running up and I went to go and, like block the wind for her so she can light her cigarette. And she lit her cigarette. And then she looked up at me and then she smiled. She smiled at me. And then she said, thank you. She said, thank you. And then she called me, she said, my boy. She said, thank you, my boy. She said, and I didn't know her. I didn't know her or anything, but I went walking away from that situation, and I was like, instantly, it came back, and I was like, man, I made it, you know, I made it. This elder acknowledged me, wasn't afraid of me, and that was kind of like a moment where I was able to stand a little bit taller that day, and that helped to just keep going. you know and I just wanted to share that. And um and I hope that, sharing my story, I hope that it's able to help others, it's able to inspire others, to seek out that help that you need, because our people, we're not people that are meant to stand alone. we're people that are meant to come together and help each other, you know. And it's important for us, no matter what you're going through in life, it's important to know that you always have somebody to turn to, no matter what it is that you're going through, you know. And for those of you that are listening, you know, if you need somebody to talk to, or you want to you know, share anything or want to know anything, then, you know, I extend that invitation. You know, I'm here. You know, I'm open, and, you know, I'm here to help in any way that I can. And I wanted to share my story, um, also, you know, to be able to say that, you know, no matter where you come from, no matter what you experience, you know, it's not the things that happen to you that that dictate your life. It's what you do with it. It's what you choose to do with it. Because there's a lot of people out there that have worse stories than me and have achieved a lot more. And there's people that have had, you know, better upbringings than I did and are struggling. It all depends on you. You're the one that has to make that choice, because you're the one that, you know, you're the one that's in control of your life. And I just wanted to share that and share a little bit about myself, about who I am, where I'm from, and the experiences that I've had. And you know, and I want to thank everybody for listening. I think we're just about at 8, so I don't know if we wanted to open up for some questions or comments. I want to say, first, I want to say in conclusion, hi hi, and ask man, salit no all. I thank you all, and I love you all. Hey, hi, Corey.
Well, I'm hoping everybody can hear me again. I've got a double echo because I had a machine open, so I've got 2 screens. Thank you, Nanasaman. Laurent, you always speak from your heart, and this touches me. I'm sure it touched others who are here today listening, and inspire others with your positive role modeling. I'm wondering if I can start off by asking you a question. You know, I've asked you to come and help us in our community with round dances. You've been the MC, seen you at powwows, be stick man. I wondered how you got started on this path as being an Escopios and helping your community with these spiritual ceremonies.
Yeah, so the process for me was, like I mentioned, growing up, my mom, she was always into culture, and we would always go to ceremonies, and ceremonies was always around me in my life. And when I was younger, when I was a child, I was in Escopio a lot for ceremonies. Um, and then when I went through that whole part of my life, when I was going through this self-destructive lifestyle, I stepped back from that. And then when I came back into my sobriety, and um, I started getting into this world of ceremony, then I kind of picked it up again, and I started Scopio for ceremonies again. And what actually happened in terms of the stickman at round dances was one of my older cousins, who's a well-known stickman throughout round dance country. Um, he approached me with protocol, and he said, I want for you to learn, to be a stickman. He said, this is the way that I was taught. And he said, he offered me protocol, and he said, I want you to learn. He said, I want you to shadow me for 4 years. He said, and then after that 4th year, he said, then you'll be able to go on your own. So that was the process that I went through to be able to be in a Scopio, to be a stick man, you know, at the round dances. So that was kind of what introduced me to that. And then the ceremony, I kind of with it. And I was always around there. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
It does. I was curious. Others, do you have questions, comments? Please join us. Put your hand up.
You have a really bad echo, Corlin. You might have to shut one of your windows.
Okay, I'm back in just one place. It sounds better to me. Thanks for bearing with me today. I was wondering as well a bit about when we're in recovery from addictions. You know, sometimes we go to meetings, sometimes we go to ceremony, sometimes we do both. And what is it like for you to try and have balance in your life and live a healthy life? What does it look like on a typical, day, week, and month in your life?
Yeah, so the when I first started on my road to recovery, my healing journey, I remember for the first probably the first month, it was really difficult. You know, for the first week, I was like so determined and everything, and then after a week, it was kind of getting to be a little bit harder and a little bit harder, and then that month, and then I remember one of the hardest things was after I kind of pushed everybody out of my life that wasn't helping me, that was actually hindering me from my sobriety. I remember after pushing them out of my life, I felt really lonely, and I felt like I was kind of on this path on my own, and it was difficult. It was difficult for me to kind of go through that. So when I started going to ceremonies, that really helped because it gave me that sense of family and that sense of responsibility. You know, when's the next ceremony? When's the next ceremony? Right, and that's what really helped me through it the most. And so for me, now where I am in my life, I honestly, I don't even, I don't have urges. I don't think about um, alcohol or drugs in any sense like that now, you know. Um, but I do get like I do still get triggers in terms of like my emotions and stuff like that, and that's kind of important to note too, is that you are going to have triggers, and for me, when I know that I'm being triggered, um I always tend to kind of step back or take myself to a place where I'm able to kind of get my grounding. And sometimes if I'm not able to get that grounding, just through some exercises of breathing, or just kind of like being on my own and trying to calm myself, sometimes I'll pull out the smudge and I'll smudge, and then I'll just kind of have my own little moment, and I'll pray on it, and I'll give it to Creator, and that's kind of one of my processes, is whenever I get triggered or something, whatever happens, because because of my self-destructive lifestyle, and a lot of the violence and everything that, I ended up having anger issues a lot, and I ended up having to take anger management. So through that anger management, ordered anger management, I was able to have some breathing techniques to help myself calm down. And sometimes I'll notice, like, I'll get triggered. One of the biggest things that triggers me is traffic driving, especially if I'm in the city. I get so I'll get so upset, if somebody cuts me off, or if, whatever, like, I get so upset, and then I'm just like, oh, and I got to calm myself down and go through this whole process, um You know, whereas before, when I was in that lifestyle, there was times when, you know, I jumped out of my vehicle and pulled somebody out and, you know, hit them and jumped back in my vehicle and took off. You know, I've been through that. And so yeah, like when it comes to, you know, whenever I'm going through my processes, or I'm finding these triggers, it's important to identify them. You know, what is a trigger, and what triggers me, and what can I do to kind of bring myself down. And yeah, so
That's great. I'm really glad that you did do some counseling as well and found that skill building helpful, being a counselor myself. And I also want to connect with you about this idea that you went from the brotherhood, the sense of brotherhood you got with the gang, to a ceremonial family, and the connection you feel with that group of people. That's
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. Well, with the, I guess we can say brotherhood, but it's not really. It's designed to look that way, but that's not what it is. You know, when it comes to that gang life, it's really in an instant, you know, you could be like you can be ostracized, you can be pushed out, you know. In an instant you could be worthless, you know, and then they don't want to have anything to do with you, you know. It's like it's more or less them finding a way to use you, and using the trauma that you faced, that they know that you faced, because everybody that I knew growing up in and around Edmonton and around that time, you know, everybody was kind of going through the same stuff, right? So they were able to take that, and they were able to use that to be able to kind of create this false sense of brotherhood. And with the ceremony life, the ceremony family, you know, it's just that, you know, everything, like in Cree we say wakuth, when everything is connected and you feel that connection. That's the difference, you know. In that gang life, it's not a family, it's not a brotherhood. You don't feel connected, you know. You don't feel like you're connected to these people. It's kind of like, well, what do I have to do to prove myself, you know? And with the ceremony life and the ceremony family, it's like everybody contributes out of love, you know. And that's that driving force is love. That's the difference. It's like night and day, you know, between the two. Yeah.
Great point. I see Sarah Lamouche is willing to speak. Just unmic yourself there.
Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Oh, perfect. Hi, Laurent. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
There's so much stuff that you said that I really connected with. Thank you from speaking from your heart. It didn't feel scripted at all. At work, I go to a lot of Zoom meetings and it's very like rigid and stuff like that. But the way you spoke from your heart really is impressive. Devin was here with me watching, so he put a little comment there and was really, as you were speaking, you know, he was saying, wow, like really impressed with you. I'll just share my thoughts. I had to write them down so I didn't get lost. But when you talked about becoming sober and having a turning point in your life, and that you made a decision, but you actually didn't change right away. It's kind of like me too, the same thing when I became sober. It wasn't like overnight, like I decided to become sober and then, you know, my life was sober from there. It wasn't that way at all. And I also talked with an elder, and he told me, it's the late Albert Desjardins, when I went to a sweat there years ago with my dad. You know, he told me that, because I said, like, I want to be sober. I want to be sober. And he kind of, like, same thing, said, tell me about yourself. And I said, well, I don't do it when my kids are home. I do it when they're sleeping. I do it when they're at school. They don't see me. And I think the hardest thing, and it stuck with me for years, was that even though my kids don't see it or smell it, it doesn't mean that they don't know. They know. And I was like, no, they don't. Like, they don't, because they don't do it. And he was just, telling me the hard truth, like how it is. And that was really hard to hear. But the lessons and the path and your journey and finding your way, really the same way, kind of just started talking with an elder, right? When you decide, like you said, you make a turning point. And you mentioned your dad, how you don't judge him for, the things that he had done or how he raised you or anything like that, right? Like my dad too, and my mom, that generation of just survival, they're just trying to survive. And we're both fortunate that we got a life a lot, like a million times easier than them. So we're able to do things like, one thing I do is like affirmations with my kids and like positive thinking and well, there's a bunch of stuff that I do with them that I wasn't taught. And then I'm excited for them, for my grandbabies. What are they going to be like? Because each generation just is going to, I believe, is going to get better and better, especially with our Indigenous kids. What else? And then I guess just when that elder said to you, my boy, and you kind of got confirmed by that, like you felt so great. I remember the first time an elder said to me, like, my girl, like how you feel like you made it. When an elder says that to you, like my girl, or even, doesn't even have to be like a traditional elder, but to hear that feeling from somebody you don't know, my boy or my girl, or thank you, it's just, I remember that feeling that you felt. I felt that same way. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for this evening, and thank you for allowing me to share.
Hi, Nanaskaman, Sarah. Yeah, for sure. It was, it definitely wasn't scripted. And I rarely ever write anything down in terms or take points of what I'm going to talk about. My process, actually, what I do is I smudge before I'm going to speak, and I open myself up, and and I say whatever needs to be said. I ask that that's what comes out, and that's always been my process in terms of sharing any kind of ancestral knowledge or self stories or whatever it is. So yeah, for sure. Thank you for the comments. It really makes me feel good, and tell Devin I said thank you. And yeah, for sure. It's that when you get that validation, it's kind of a sense like, I've made it. It's like that aha moment. Like I've made it, and it feels so good. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you.
That was a wonderful share. Thanks, Sarah, for speaking and being courageous. I want to encourage others to ask questions, make comments. I had another thought too. Laurent, one of the themes this year I'm doing is called alcohol/sober, alcohol-free/sober connections. And I really find that people, when they take a moment, an event, or a lifestyle choice to have these genuine connections that we can have without substances involved, they come to realize how much deeper their communication is, and the connections are more real, genuine, loyal, trustworthy, safe, and they can be vulnerable with each other. What are your thoughts about these healthy connections that I'm talking about? And what has been some of the connections that you've been making in your recovery that matter to you and were deep?
Yeah, I remember before I was gonna make this choice. I remember thinking to myself, like when I was still drinking and drugs and that, and I remember thinking, if I quit drinking, if I quit doing drugs, then what is there? Like my life's gonna be so boring, right? I'm not gonna have anything to do. Like, there's nothing to do except go to the bar and drink and whatever else, party and that. I thought, like there's nothing. I'll just be really bored, and I don't want that. So that was kind of something that I had to go through. And then what I noticed was that after I made that choice and after I sobered up, then I noticed that people, like I talked about that moment when I felt lonely and I felt like, you know, I had to push people out of my life, you know, and I had to say, no, I can't hang out with you anymore. You know, I got to do this for me. I got to do this for my daughter. So I had this moment where I felt lonely. But then what happened was I remember praying on it, and I remember praying on it, and I remember asking the Creator, you know, to help me, you know, to have pity on me and to help me, you know, through this. And because, you know, because I was struggling like emotionally, right? And then I remember people started coming into my life, and it was like at the weirdest places, weirdest times. People would come into my life, like I'd be sitting at a bus stop, and then somebody would come sit beside me, and then, you know, we'd just get to talking, and then all of a sudden they're telling me about this round dance that's going on, or they're telling me about, you know, like all of a sudden we're talking, and it's just like, hey, well, all right, well, let's, you know, let's exchange numbers, let's meet up, you know. And then that was kind of, and then I just kind of started developing and building this support system, you know. And I didn't really think of it at the time, but that's exactly what it was. It was a support system, and it was, you know, it was for me, I felt it was like kind of like that divine connection, right? It was the ancestors that were working at work, and bringing me to the people that, you know, I needed to be with. And some of those people, you know, like we've been friends, and we've been each other's supports, you know, since that point to today, you know. And I think it's absolutely vital to have those types of connections, to have those types of people to be able to talk to be able to, you know, to hang out with, to do things. And it really helps when you have somebody that you're able to talk to, because sometimes the people that are closest to you sometimes can be the hardest people to talk to about things that are going on, right? And a lot of it is because there's a lot of like in it there's a lot of the relationship dynamic, because you're so close. They've seen you at your best, right? So when you're not, when you're in a kind of hard place, sometimes it's hard for somebody that's seen you at your best to see you, you know, in this hard place. And it's like they're a little bit too close to you to be able to help. So sometimes you got to be able to talk to somebody else, right? And then that's when it's good to have people like that, to be able to, you know, to reach out and say, hey, you know, I need to bounce some things off of you, or I need to you know, I need to get some stuff out, you know. And I think it's important to have that for sure. Yeah.
Wondering if others have thoughts. We're getting close to, well, it's 8:15, so we have a little bit more time yet. I want to talk a little bit about this beautiful necklace I'm wearing. I see you're wearing one too. Show me. And this was a gift. Well, it was a gift, but I really want to thank Laurent for it, because, oh yeah, that's gorgeous. He is a very talented artist and a jewelry maker. Of course, Wendy talked earlier about his other gift, which is with wood making things of all kinds. And I really think discovering your identity was about learning your gifts and paying attention to what the Creator wants you to do with them. And one of your gifts is storytelling. And you have this beautiful MC voice and radio voice, I call it. But because you speak from your heart and you're so knowledgeable about Indigenous ceremony, you also help teach other people during our ceremonies what we're doing, why we're doing things. And you give them the background in a way that makes it plain English, and yet it's Cree. You also explain the Cree words. So I thank you for discovering who you are and sharing that with the world, because you make it a beautiful place. And you're of course, you're very talented. So tell us a little bit about how you discovered your gifts and maybe where you went to enhance your gifts and your skills.
Yeah. So I was always fascinated with indigenous jewelry. I have an uncle and an auntie who are they're amazing artists, you know, jewelry artists. And I remember I used to buy a lot of jewelry, a lot of turquoise. I was just into it, you know, and I would always buy like turquoise earrings, or, you know, or like a necklace or whatever. Yeah, like I was always buying these things. And then I got to this point where I wanted to, you know, I didn't want to just buy them because I envisioned what I wanted to see and I couldn't find it, right? And, you know, I tried to commission pieces from people, and it for some reason it just didn't kind of, something was just telling me that, you know, I need to kind of take things into my own hands. So I started this process where, you know, I just said, you know, I want to do it. I want to start making jewelry. And I remember I went to some jewelry artists and I asked for some pointers. And I asked, you know, just anything you can tell me, anything that will help me kind of get into it, make it a little bit easier or whatever. And basically what I got back was that, you know, it's a hard field to get into. That's kind of all I was given, right? It was kind of like, I'm not going to share nothing with you, but that was fine. That was okay because, you know, I was self-taught. And that was, again, looking at it, that was a way for me to be able to take a lot more pride in what I did. You know, I was able to look at it and say, you know, like I'm a self-taught indigenous artist, jewelry artist, you know, and I was able to like take a lot more out of that because there was a lot of trial and error and everything like that. So I started doing jewelry, and it just kind of, these ideas just kept coming into my head, different types of stones with different stones and different energy properties and all of these different things. I was thinking of different mediums. I was thinking about bones, and I was thinking stones. I was thinking wood. I was thinking all these, and it just wouldn't stop. I was just like, you know, bombarded with all these different ideas and patterns and thoughts and everything. And I said, okay, well, you know, I have to take this serious because this is obviously a passion, right? And I thought of it at first. I thought, you know, this is a passion of mine because, you know, I'm so into jewelry. But what I didn't realize is later on in my career as a jewelry artist, um, the some of the pieces that I commission, or some of the pieces that I do, they have stories to them. They have their own stories. They have their own energies. They have some of the ancestral knowledge and teachings that are attached with them. So whenever I commission a piece, or if I sell a piece, you know, that story goes with it. And with that story, I've had people from all over North America, you know, I've had people, you know, message me and say, you know, I received my jewelry, my necklace or earrings or whatever it was. I received my my piece. And, you know, and I've had them tell me, you know, like that it just helps them in so many different ways. You know, wearing it, they feel proud. Wearing it, they feel, you know, they feel really good. And that's why it was really important for me to be as open and as honest with myself and my process whenever I make my jewelry. And I wanted to take it a step further because what I found is that in terms of the arts, you know, we're as Indigenous people, you know, we're very what's the word, underrepresented, right? We don't have a lot of Indigenous voice in the arts. So I was wanting to take this take this step as a jewelry artist, as an artist, and see where I can go with it. And what I ended up doing was to I ended up moving to Penticton, BC, and I took an arts program post secondary, and and through, it's called the Analkin Center, and it's located on the Simpington Indian Reserve in Penticton, BC, Okanagan, and they're in partnership with UVic, University of Victoria, as well as what's the other one? UBCO, University of British Columbia, Okanagan. And I was able to get a certificate, which is a National Aboriginal Professional Artist Training certificate through them. And then along with that came like the business and marketing and everything, right? So they helped me to promote, to know how to promote my art as well. They helped me to get into the museums, the art galleries, and all of these different places. And it was kind of like it was kind of that boost that I needed to be able to say, okay, well, you know, this is something that I have to treat with the most attention and respect, right? Because this is a gift, you know, being able to do this jewelry and share the stories through the jewelry, that's a gift. You know, we're all given gifts from the Creator, and this is one that I feel that I'm able to share. And it's something like, when I think about it, you know, when I'm long and gone, you know, it's something that I can leave as a legacy, right? To have these different jewelry pieces and have the stories attached to them. You know, some of these pieces that are in people's homes might become a generational piece along with that story that's passed down, right? And that can help a lot of people. And that's the way I think about it. So I do, like, we have a business. It's a Keewatin Spirit Creations, and you can find we're on Etsy, this Keewatin Spirit, my Etsy, www.keewatinspirit myetsy.com, I think it is. And then we also are on Facebook. We have a business page on Facebook. It's Keewatin Spirit, Kiwitin Spirit. And we have a lot of our jewelry, a lot of stuff that we do. Like my wife and I, we're both artists. My wife, she does amazing paintings, and she does a lot of ribbon skirts and a lot of different things. So we commission a lot of pieces, and we do sell a lot of pieces, and we also have we do consignment as well. We have pieces sitting in art galleries across Canada, and we do have pieces sitting in stores and that. So yeah, if you're interested, if anybody's interested, you can go check out the Facebook page, and there's a direct link from there onto the Etsy page. Yeah.
Yes, Sheena V was very interested in finding out where she could purchase one of your
Mm.
pieces.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was great, and my earrings. And I just know that these things are very healing, but so is your music. And of course, your song and your voice are a gift too. Your prayers are doubled, they say, when you sing. Will you talk a little bit about maybe singing and how you learned about that gift you have and when you decide to share it?
Yeah. So when it came to the singing, I've always sang round dance and powwow, and I've sang in ceremonies and such. And when it came to me actually singing in this sense and sharing that as a way to encourage healing, or as a way of therapy, the way that started actually was my late mom. We found out that she was sick with cancer, and we had asked a few different ceremony lodge holders to come and to have ceremony for her. And one of the individuals that came along with his wife was Leo McGilvery, who's a well-known singer, traditional singer. And he has some beautiful songs, and him and his wife, they have some beautiful songs, and he shares a lot of these songs, and their prayer songs, their healing songs and such. So he came, and we had a ceremony, we had a pipe ceremony, and then he actually through that process, he gifted me a rattle in that ceremony, and um, he also gave me the right there. He said, you know, I want to, these songs are for you. You can use them. You can sing them. You know, sing them, and you know, you can use them to help our people. So he gave me the right to sing those songs, and a lot of the songs that I sing I use through workshops or whatever, you know, these are the songs that I choose to sing to help with the healing of our people. And then with that, with the rattle, along came songs, and then it started from there as a process, and it kind of became a point where people just, you know, it's just, I'm not sure how they knew, but they just said, can you share a song? And then it just kept kind of happening that way. And then now, you know, every chance that I get, I choose to at least share, you know, share one song in anything that I do, because, you know, through the drum, you know, Mistagwaskik Ogisago, the drum spirit is a healing, it's a healing spirit, because the vibrations that you hear through that drum, you know, those vibrations that you feel, you know, that's a healing energy. That sound that you hear, that's a healing energy, as well as the songs are prayers. The songs are healing, you know, and in all that process. So, you know, it's an honor to be able to share that, and, you know, to be given that gift, you know, to be able to share that with people. And that was the process on how I kind of started singing a lot more in this aspect. Yeah.
I see that Jay had his hand up. Jay Cardinal, can you unmute?
I'm a girl.
Oh,
I put J. It's my name's Janelle.
thank you. Go ahead.
Um, Thank you for sharing your story so much. It really resonated, I guess. I just like, I don't know how to comment, I guess. I think a lot of people do think that people come from like a background of like all like we all do or something, that we all come from like a background where our parents are, you know, like all like alcoholed up or druggied up, and like yeah, you actually for the first time you actually said kind of the way we were raised. Like my mom moved us to the city, she wanted us to go to a better school. Her words were she wants to give us a chance, right? And and like I never saw my mom touch alcohol, right? Like maybe a beer at a wedding, like when I was 18 or something. But how like it's affected in the other ways, like the emotional intelligence that they like weren't taught, and which does, well, we weren't taught, and how that like really did affect, you know, like how we grew up. And same thing, like I never saw her drink and all that, and I ended up turning to alcohol. And I actually am clean myself about 13 months now. And like I didn't make the decision. Like I didn't go in and be like, oh yeah, I'm, you know, I'm quitting this, whatever. It just kind of happened by chance in a way. Like I'm so stubborn. There's like, I think that kind of helped in this way. It's not something I went to go seek help for or something. It's just like I figured, well, if I'm gonna like kind of, once I realized I was kind of into it, I realized that as like I don't want to tell anyone, because like if I fail, I guess, then it's like you know, I didn't want to like fail at that. So, but I just like I wanted, well, what I'm commenting on is I think a lot of time people think that like if you quit, all of a sudden your life's just going to be all amazing, all great, and all this thing, right? And what I realize is like what I don't really hear people mention is like those problems that made you actually go drink are kind of still there, right? And it's easier to blame a lot of things on the drinking or whatever you happen to be doing, whatever your choice of escape is, right? And if you actually kind of don't, I think like I don't know, it's like a lot. I don't know. A lot of people don't mention that. It just seems like it's all like just like magic or something. Like, oh, you're clean. You start walking a red road. All these things are gonna happen. All these opportunities and all that. And which I do believe. Like you're in a different vibe. You attract people, like you said, that oh, like all these people are clean and sober. And what I'd realized is like I turned 40 this year, and I was like the only one of my friends who wasn't sober anymore, right? And I actually drank more later in my life than before, and I don't know why that is. It just happened that way because I really super wasn't when I was younger. And it's just something that I found in my 30s, I guess. And then I'm thinking that like I guess it's pretty selfish. I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want to get anyone's support because it's something I wanted to do by myself. And I find like the beginning was pretty easy, right? Like I didn't really think about it. I was just like, oh, I'll go party after my midterms or I'll go party after my finals, like I planned it because I always kind of like those couple weeks, around exams, I kind of wouldn't. And then all of a sudden, next thing I know, it's like months and then all that. And I was actually really proud of myself because my mom had passed in March. And I was like, for sure, if I was gonna, fall off, I guess that would be then. And I didn't. So I'm really kind of surprised, but proud of myself as well. But I find it's like now, that's kind of the harder time. I find my thoughts going back to like, well, I did it like a year. I can quit. I can do it like anytime again. So it's kind of um, like falling back on my own self. Then I realized like, I actually didn't deal with a lot of the things. I did I went to a lot of, I said I was like, oh, on my healing journey and all this thing, but it's really just a lot of classes that, yeah, you write the notes, you do the things, you can repeat back every word that there is, but actually not doing the actual stuff is different, right? Like I said, my mom passed in March, and then it was right after the kids were all found, and I found that was such a crazy, unbelievable time. Throw it in with the COVID. There was like a couple things going on with my girls, and I just found it was like probably the hardest time I've ever had in my life, and I stayed sober. So it's like, well, don't I deserve to go back and do it then? Like actually did it when it was hard. So I just find that funny that like a lot of people don't mention that. It's like because it's usually harder in the beginning, but like at the end, and it's just like I probably obviously should go find some kind of support or whatever, but I'm so stubborn and stuff like that, not really liking vulnerability. But
Jay, I'm
yeah,
going to have to interrupt you, but thank
yeah,
you so much for sharing. And there was a number of things that Laurent might comment on now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Janelle. Yeah, for sure. Like I was saying, when like the first little while, it's easy and you're determined, and now you're at that point where a lot of the things, like from what I can hear or understand from what you're sharing, is like a lot of the things that what you're going through right now is, a lot of the things that kind of hindered you are kind of like the traumas and all of that, and all the things that are happening, it's kind of weighing down heavy on you, and you're thinking about it a lot, right? And a lot of the like a lot of things that are going on with you, and it's starting to get a little bit heavy, right? And I want to thank you first of all for sharing, and opening up. I mean, that takes a lot. First of all, that takes a lot to be able to do that, and I commend you for that for sure. And yeah, like throughout the process, none of the stuff that's what I was mentioning earlier. None of the stuff that you went through, it doesn't go away, and your life isn't just automatically better because you make these choices. The process is that the things that you need to face, you will face, but the thing that makes it better or makes it a lot more significant is that you're able to face it, without the vices, and through that process you're able to actually get the healing that you need. And a lot of the process that you go through in terms of like like the group thing, when you do the group thing, a lot of that process, there's a lot of people that share and everything. And if you're a person that generally likes to deal with things on your own, then when it comes to sobriety, and it comes to not just getting sober is just a part of it. It's when you're staying sober, it's not necessarily something that you have to try and like it's not like a test or something that you have to try and complete. you know Sobriety, really, when we look at it, it's just choosing a healthier lifestyle for ourselves. So in order for us to have a healthier lifestyle for ourselves, it's important for us to take a look at what's holding us back, in terms of our health, emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. If you look at your medicine wheel, draw out a medicine wheel and say, where am I lacking? Where am I not balanced here? And then say, what do I need to do in order to get that back to balance, right? And then through that process, you'll be able to help yourself, because a lot of the journeys that I took in terms of my healing journey, a lot of the processes that I took, it was all within myself. I didn't necessarily open up to a whole lot of people, but I dealt through those processes. But what made it possible is, I reached out to the creator and I said, I need guidance and I need help. And what the creator did was sent the people to my path, so that I was able to develop the tools that I can use to help myself. And that's kind of if we look at it, nothing happens by accident. Everything happens for a reason, right? And a lot of us believe that. So um you're here right now, and we're talking right now, and that's not by accident. Everything happens for a reason. And maybe this is the ancestors' way of helping you through your process, helping you through your journey, through your healing. And if you wanted to reach out, then I'm on Facebook. You can message me or whatever, and we can talk further if you'd like. If but I want to say, that I really acknowledge your resilience after everything that you went through. Losing your mom in March, and everything that you're going through. And you're still sober. That's amazing. And that was part of the reason why when Corey and Wendy asked, what the theme is, or what we should call this, I said ahkameyimok, because the elders, they talk about that ahkameyimok. If we break that down if we translate that into English, basically what that means is resilience. It's not giving up. No matter what we go through in life, we don't give up. We keep going. And that's kind of what that means. So and that's kind of what I wanted to present, and I wanted to share with everybody. Ahkameyimok, no matter what it is you're going through, or where you're at in terms of your journey in life, ahkameyimok, you just keep going. Don't let anything bring you down, because when you look back at your life and the things that you went through in terms of your trauma, in terms of everything that you faced, no matter what it was that happened in your life, no matter how negative it was, you know, you went through it and you're here now. You survived that, you know. Not only did you survive it, but look where you are now. You know, you're taking school and you're doing good with your life, you know, in spite of everything that happened to you, you know, in your own personal life, you know. So take that and use that as an energy to help yourself, and to use that as a power for yourself, you know. I'm not a victim of the things that happened to me. The things that happened to me are actually things that I can use to empower myself to keep going, you know. I've already made it this far. Why stop, you know? So I want to thank you for sharing. Yeah. Hi.
Thank you so much.
I think it's beautiful how you're coming back to this theme. And of course, this is almost the end of our session time together. So I'm going to ask if there's any last comments or questions for Laurent before I wrap it up tonight. Or if you have a last comment. Okay, so on behalf of JPACOS, the Grand Prairie Aboriginal Circle of Services, thank you for coming tonight, everyone, and Nanaskaman, Laurent. All the people here today, you know, you have helped, I'm sure, in different ways, and may this positive ripple effect go out into our community and beyond. Thank you for your teachings, as well as for your prayers, your song. Thank you to our sponsors, Shell Canada, for their support of our storytelling series. And I wish to acknowledge the assistance of my subcommittee members, in particular Wendy Goulet, McWitch. And we're planning to host our next session on December 20th. It'll be a Monday evening. I hope you can join us with Elder Leonard Cardinal. And we have advertised, of course, on Facebook and Eventbrite. It's going to be a time for us to talk about winter solstice teachings, and to celebrate together would be excellent. So please come back and join us next month. Have a safe trip home if you're traveling someplace. Stay well, everybody. Take care. Good night. Yes, thank you.